Thank you. My task is to make a case for reparation for African Americans. You know, the United States has had a huge and ugly history as it relates to the slavery and as it relates to the treatment of African Americans for over 400 years. Taking back to Africa, at the time that they were deciding whether they were going to transport Africans over to America for purposes of free labor, there was a huge discussion in our legislative offices and our legislative buildings. There were those who said we do not want to get involved in putting African Americans into a slavery type situation. And there were those who said, no, we want that free labor. Benjamin Franklin got up and spoke, and he basically spoke in a lot of different meetings in town halls in reference to using slaves. And he was anti, at that time, bringing slaves to America. His whole contention was to have an understanding that they should take Europeans and utilize Europeans at low wages and bring them to America, and not Africans. At the same time, too, you know, Benjamin Franklin, he did not think much of Africans. He thought they were stupid. He thought they couldn't be trained. He thought they couldn't learn. And Benjamin Franklin, obviously, as we all know, is one of the most intelligent people in American history. And that's how he felt about us. And he made those points made. But the ones who wanted slavery, they won. And what they did was they commissioned individuals to go over and capture, like you would do an animal, capture slaves, put them in ships, and how they laid them in ships. And I know we know from our history, for the most part, that they laid them side by side. They weren't able to sit up, they weren't able to do anything, they didn't have any exercise in there. And hundreds of them were placed on these ships. In fact, some of them were 500, 600 per ship. And many ships would basically command 400, 200, they would put 600 individuals on it. So they would pack them like sardines. Many of them died. Many of them became diseased, and many of them had poor health once they made it to America. However, they were more concerned about the numbers, as long as they had some that survived. Now, my case reparations is this, and you have to totally understand this here. The United States government was 100% on board with enslaving African Americans. And that's the key to reparations. A lot of people say, well, we don't want to mention reparations. We don't want to talk about that because nobody wants to do that. And I say, why not? 400 years of what we've been going through. And when I mention 400 years, let me mention this to you in that context. The 400 years is just not once 1865 came around and slavery and the Emancipation Proclamation. It's not all about that. It's the treatment of African Americans after that date. My forefathers were enslaved, but my forefathers also were put into a society that they were treated worse and worse. I remember talking to my mother. She died in 98. And I remember her saying, I asked Mom, do you have any white friends? She said, oh yeah, I had plenty of white friends. I said, well, when you go out to dinner, did you go to dinner with them? Oh, absolutely not. She could not legally go to dinner with her white friends. I go to dinner every week with somebody of a different nationality, and we sit there very comfortable. But she spent her entire life under that Jim Crow. And Jim Crow is as bad as what slavery was to us. Now, nothing is worse than slavery. To enslave another person, control another person, to beat another person, to kill another person, and get away with it. If I attempted to get off that plantation, they had the right to send dogs after me. Yeah. And not only bring me back, they would bring me back. You know why? Because I was property of that owner, and he needed that property. Yeah. But if he got tired of me and didn't look at this is the last time this guy's going to run from me, he would tell him, kill him, hang him. When you catch him, don't bring him back here. I don't want him. And he had the right to do it. And that right was condoned by the United States government, which I say we have a ugly history of slavery in this country and the treatment of African Americans. So when someone tells me we don't deserve reparations, well, the Japanese got reparations during World War II. Each one of them got $20,000. I talked to a Japanese individual I know real well who lives in Lowell. And he mentioned to me he got that $20,000 check. I talked to him personally myself. I know that he did. And the history books show it. Even the Tuskegee Institute with the syphilis experiment, those individuals got collectively in the 20s of millions of dollars. Now they were black, but but Americans not talking about slavery when they gave that. They knew that was wrong. It's no different than, think about this here. If you walk out your door and you slip and fall and hurt your back on my property, and you think I got money, or at least at the very least you think I got insurance, and you sue me, you probably gonna win. If something I did wrong or it's slippery, I should have removed something, and you're gonna get a recovery. But just think what the American government did to us as African Americans. And then when we ask for some type of reciprocity, we don't get it. Now, reparations is defined as making of amends for a wrong one has done by paying money to or otherwise helping those who have been wronged. That's what we're talking about. I don't think there's not one sane person who said we weren't wronged. We were wronged. There's not a history in this country. There's not a country, there's not a civilized society that has done what they did to African Americans in their particular countries. It's not just happened. America is alone. America is alone in that. And when you start thinking about the Jim Crow period, it's just sickening. It's just sickening. I mentioned about Benjamin Franklin. Now, one of the things Benjamin Franklin was totally against, really, in his early years, he lived to be 84, but he spent about 70 years not caring for blacks. In fact, he said himself, he thought that they couldn't learn, and he was very surprised when he learned that a black child was reading in school, and it kind of changed his view about the intelligence of African Americans at that time. So he starts gradually changing. At the end of his life, he was all for not reparations, but making amends. And he didn't mention it, to making amends. So even then, he was talking about you just can't end slavery and then just sit them out and say, okay, go fend for yourself. Right. Now, another thing that Benjamin Franklin said was this, that African Americans in this country would never be equal to whites. He said that himself. As intelligent as he is, he said that himself. And when asked why, particularly after he had learned that they can learn and they can be intelligent, and they're technically in his mind, I'm sure he thought they may not be no different than I am. However, he pointed to the color of their skin and said by the color of their skin, they will be recognized and they will be basically systematically prejudiced against. Now get this here. When they were talking about bringing slaves versus bringing poor whites to this country, that's one of the things they mentioned. We can enslave Africans for life, for years, hundreds of years. But poor whites, they escape, they get a little education, they get hired by somebody, and they can beat the system. So they knew that they can control. Also, they looked at the American Indian, and they were not going to deal with the American Indian. And that's another entity that the United States is still trying to do something for the Native Americans. The United States is still doing, casinos, you mean this, you mean the properties that they own and they have a right to. So there's reparations going on. It's just not going on for African Americans. And that's what we need to do. Now my proposal is this, very clearly, and I'm not playing with this proposal, and I'm not saying, they owe us. They legally owe us. Whether we take it to court, and I think we have a good basis for that, a legal argument. Because you would have to get a court to rule that, yes, the United States government, and we've never had a case like that. But we need an actual case. And we have injured African Americans who can say, my forefathers was this. We can trace it all the way back, and we can trace the Jim Crow period, the time that they condoned and what they did. Plessy versus Ferguson. Separate but equals the biggest lie we've ever heard. And they knew it. They knew it. And that's how the United States Supreme Court ruled in that. Saying, no, it's okay that black kids don't have to go to school with white kids, and they don't have a right to do that. As long as they stay separate and equal. And when has it been equal? Yeah. Not one time, not nowhere in this country. Now this is what I propose. The United States government, let me give you this example so where the money will come from and where other money, they can make money anytime they want. Trillions of dollars. Again, you see that in 10 minutes. Right. This is my proposal. The United States government last year, 2019, paid out $52 billion to foreign aid. Countries they just wanted to help. Countries that these presidents rub elbows with and say, I'll take care of you. We even heard Barack Obama one day off mic saying, wait till after the election and I'll take care of you. They got the money. And they use that money. But they paid out $52 billion last year. Now, Trump is now saying, I'm going to cut that. And that's a typical Trump. He said, I'm going to cut that 32%. So $17 billion he's not going to give out next year. Well, the money is there. And I'm saying, well, we will take at the minimum, that's $17 billion. We will take at the minimum, that's $17 billion and plus more. And this is what we will do with it. Let's target major African American cities and let's talk about Gary. City into something that looks nothing like you would ever believe in the United States. We would dredge that lake. Okay. And bring it in to the inlands. Okay. Drive it all the way to basically Red Road, if you will. And then circle it. Canals, beautiful homes on it, parks on it, all types of things. Keeping or bringing back the golf course. Keeping and bringing back things that we need as a culture. We can do that. In addition to that, and I'm talking about bringing billions of dollars and making those things happen. I'm talking about building a school system. Totally from those monies, not from property taxes. We know we have a problem. You can talk all you want in this country, and you can talk all you want in Gary. But the major black cities do not have the money to build schools and maintain those schools. And cities like Bayou and go down to Marion, Indiana, some of these other areas that got a lot of huge tax base, they have beautiful schools. They can hire the best teachers. Munster, somebody was telling me the other day, well, Munster went out and paid additional money for a teacher that they wanted. They do that. Absolutely. They say, we accept demand for you, we're going to pay you $20,000 more a year because we want you here. But why can't we do that to our students? Why can't we do this to this city? And it can't be done. Educational programs and training programs can be instituted. We need to take a person who's doing welding or doing electrical or doing, which we're not doing enough of because the unions aren't letting us in. Right. We need to train those individuals and pay them during the training period a sufficient amount of money so they can maintain themselves. So in other words, when you train them in school, you pay the school. No, we don't need, as African Americans, to be paying that school. And also, we should be receiving a check for the work that we do during that training period. I'm not absolutely right for Bernie Carter or anybody else get a check in the mail saying, okay, you were African American, you were injured, so I got my 20, I got my 100,000. Because to me, 50,000, whatever, it wouldn't do no good to me. I don't want it. But I'm sure others want it. But I think it do better collectively use it in a system that makes all of us live better. Public transportation, the best public transportation center you would have in Northwest Indiana should be in Gary. It should be free. You should be able to ride it. That's right. That's right. And that reparation would take care of that. Because what happens is you can't get to a job, and what happens? Gary Airport, make it one of the biggest international airports in this country, and we can emphasize on trade, and we can emphasize on cargo, and we can emphasize on all other different types of things to make that airport very productive. The only reason that airport is not a second midway is because African Americans live in this city. If all of you move out and whites move in, it'll be a major city airport. And that's not right. And you need to call it like you call it, and I don't care about calling it like I call it. Corporations, there needs to be incentives from this money to hire and to allow corporations to come in and hire Gary residents, not only in Gary, but in Northwest Indiana, and as well as white. I mean, you're not going to exclude whites. Because you know why? The major corporations that I'm asking to come in here are white.
Okay.
But we want them here. We want them to, Amazon. We want them to have a corporate headquarters presence here.
Yeah.
We want other major corporations to have corporate headquarters in the city limits. And the reason for that is, and how you get that, is you offer incentives that are so substantial, and that would take legislative action downstate, but they can do it because they can be coming from a direction from the federal government. You can give tax incentives, all types of tax credits for these individuals who bring jobs here, bring their jobs here, and bring employees here. Yeah. And that will happen, and that can happen. So what we really need is a system. Well, I was going to say, Governor already covered all that. I don't know. But this is very doable. And we need the legal minds to challenge this in court. You can't do it by politicians. Politicians, I don't care whether they're Democrat or they're Republican. They're all the same. And they can only do so much. Here in Indiana, I love some of my Democratic people, but here in Indiana, I know it's very closely when we had the 3 Democratic governors. Gary got nothing.
That's right.
Absolutely nothing. And they quoted us like we were something, if you know what I mean. I'm serious. And we got nothing. So, when Miss Daniels did, we got nothing from him. So it's whether it's a Republican or Democrat, somebody can get that in that sense. So you have to do almost like Thurgood Marshall did with Brown versus the Board of Education. Okay. You have to follow suit. You have to argue that case. And we do have standing to make that kind of legal argument. Now the problem with that is, in all reality, and I don't want to get political, but if you have a conservative Supreme Court, you may not get that. Now we might, because the Supreme Court has surprised me on a number of different issues. But I think the core of that, argue the right way, and research the right way, present it the right way, they can understand that they need to pay us for what they did to the African Americans in this country, and are continuing. And they still continue. We see that today. These riots and stuff, how much that costs? And they'll pay for the riots. The insurance company, everybody pays for it, but they won't give what they should give to the American people. So my position is this. Making a case for reparations is just that. We have a case, and we need to do it and utilize it, and we need to bring businesses back into this area, make this area a very lovely area. Thank you very much.